I want you to imagine something. You're sitting in your car 5 minutes before your biggest interview for your life, right? You look in the mirror. You straighten your shirt. You take a deep breath. Then, without realizing it, your voice change, your posture change, your vocabulary change, your laugh change. You rehearse saying, "Good morning. It's nice to meet all of you," instead of saying, "What's up? How y'all doing?" Maybe you decide not to wear your bonnet before leaving the house. Maybe you put your hair in a style that you think, look more professional. Maybe you tell yourself, don't be too loud, don't use slang, don't be too much. And before you have even shaken someone's hand, you already start eating yourself. The question is that professionalism or is that survival? In 2026, with Black unemployment still being higher than the national average, is talking white still the price of entry? Let's talk about it. It's a juicy party, yeah, you kidding, man. Grab a seat, drink, you know it's Jen. Hey y'all, I'm back with another episode. This is episode 10. Y'all, episode 10 already. Can you believe it? I remember when this first started. But on episode 10, y'all. But welcome back to Jenn Juice. You know, the podcast where current headlines becomes timeless conversation through the lens of social work, psychology, and critical thinking. You know, it's me, Jen. And if you're new here, welcome back. And if you're coming back, welcome home. You know, every week we talk about things, what's happening in our communities, in our culture, inside ourselves. But not to tell you what to think, but help you think a little deeper. So whether you're listening on your way to work, cooking dinner, cleaning your room, or just trying to make some sense of the world, I'm glad you're here. Go ahead, grab your favorite drink because it's time to pour into another conversation. And if you ask me what I'm drinking a bottle of water. Y'all. I'm not gonna lie to you, I started this new medication. My stomach is really hurting. Not gonna lie to you. I started a heavy ass dose. I was supposed to start the 2 milligrams, but I started the 15. That's the highest one it goes. My lord, I should have just did the 2 one. But who cares about how I feel? It's all about how you feel in the podcast. So let's go ahead and get into it, right? But of course, before we jump in, I have to do a quick disclaimer. This podcast discusses current events, public conversations, and social issues for educational and discussion purposes. The opinion I share are my own and are meant to encourage dialogue, not to tell you what to believe in, okay? When discussing ongoing news stories, I rely on publicly available reportings at the time of recording. And because situations can change, I always encourage you to read multiple sources and think critically for yourself. Around here, we do not rush to conclusions. We ask better questions because context doesn't excuse behavior, but it does help us understand it, right? So, what's pouring this week, right? Before we get into today's topic, let's really look at what's pouring. So, if you've been listening to Jenn Juice, you know I've been talked about the David case, the DV4D case before because it raised a lot of questions about accountability, responsibility, and how quickly information can be spread online. Since then, new reporting has been added another layer to the story. According to recent report, investigators obtained documentation indicating that the young girl's parents had signed paperwork allowing her to meet David. That development has sparked a fresh wave of online debate with people arguing about parental responsibilities, informed consent, and what these new details means for the broad of the case. Now, because this is remains as an active legal matter, it's important not to jump to conclusions or assume we know every single fact. As more information becomes public, it's okay to adjust our understanding instead of holding on to the very first version of the story we may have heard, right? One thing I always want us to practice here is learning new information doesn't mean you're changing your size. It means that you're letting the facts shape your opinion instead of forcing the facts to fit your opinion. And that's called difference, okay? The second thing I want to talk about within what's pouring this week is about the I really don't have to pronounce this down at university, but I'm pretty sure you've seen it online. Recently, Tuskegee. I think it's called Tuskegee. 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 We gonna say Tuskegee. If you know what the fuck I'm talking about, yeah, whatever. University updated its student dress code to prohibit items like bonnets, do-rags, bedroom slippers, and other attires the university say doesn't align with the expectations for classrooms and certain campus spaces. Supporters of the policy says it's about professionalism and preparing students for the workplace. Critics also say it's another example of respectability politics and unfair policy how Black students express themselves. Personally, I can say I understand why universities want students to think about professionalism. There's an absolutely career where, appearance matters. I don't think that it's a crazy conversation to have, but okay, honestly, my point of view on it, I get it. Like I said, I get it. I just don't like the fact that students can't wear it inside the cafeteria. Somewhere they feel comfortable eating and being with other students, socializing, meeting new people, feeling comfortable with whatever attire that they feel. Yeah, classroom, okay, cool. I can get that classroom. Financial aid building, okay, cool. Internships, okay, cool. That's different. I understand that. That's professionalism. That's common sense. You want to look a certain way in order to get your career going. Yes, but to put limitations on the cafeteria, to the gyms, to people residents, is wild. Like, let them have some kind of peace of living in their truth and what they want to wear to feel comfortable. Like, I think it's a time and place when it should be implemented, but not fully everywhere on the campus. I don't think that's logical. But I also found myself asking another question. Who decided what professionalism looks like? And who decided what professionalism sounds like? Because if we're being honest, a lot of us have heard things like, you sound so articulated. Can you talk a little more professionally? Maybe don't say it like that during an interview. And for some Black people, there's another phrase we probably heard once in our lives. Stop talking white. Or you need to talk white if you want that job. Now, before we go further, right, when I'm saying talking white, I'm using a phrase that, many of us recognize from lived experience. I'm not saying the standard English belongs to one type of race. I'm talking about the pressure many people describe the feeling to change how they speak, present themselves, or interact in order to fit the expectation in a certain environment. And that's what stayed with me after reading about Tuskegee, whatever it's called, Tuskegee, university thingy, because maybe the conversation isn't really about bonnets or do-rags. Maybe it's about something more deeper. Maybe it's about what we being taught that how success looks like. What the fuck am I stepping on? Oh. Sorry. Before we even walk into a room, which brings me to today's question. In 2026, with Black unemployment still being higher than the national average, is talking white still the price of entry? Let's talk about it. And let's take a sip. Now, all right. I want to ask a different the fuck. I want to ask a different question. What is code switching? Because I think people throw that phrase around so much that we stop defining it. For some people, code switching means changing how they speak. For others, it's changing how they dress, how they wear their hair, how loud they laugh, how expressive they are, what music they admit they listen to, who they tell people, who they tell people they're dating, or even what parts of themselves they choose to hide. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. It becomes automatic. It's like a memory muscle, right? Before long, you start wondering which version of me is the real me, right? So let's start with psychology. There's a concept called impression management. It sounds fancy, but we have all done it, right? Management is the idea that people naturally adjust how they present themselves depending on who's around them. Think about it. You probably don't talk to your best friend the same way you talk to your grandmother. You probably don't speak to your professor the same way you speak to your cousins. That's normal. That's humans. We all adapt. But here's where today's conversation gets interesting, right? There's a difference between adapting and feeling like you have to erase parts of yourself. One is flexibility, the other one can become survival. If I have to change my voice, my personality, or my appearance, or the way I naturally communicate just to be seen as a competent, is that really professionalism or is it something else? Now, of course, you know I have to do it. I have to bring social work in it, right? So I have 3 topics from social work. Number 1 is called PI, and PI means person and environment. Instead of asking what's wrong, excuse me, y'all. Instead of asking what's wrong with this person, we ask what's happening around this person. Think about it. If someone code switches, maybe is it because they don't like themselves. Maybe it's because they learn certain environments reward certain behaviors. Imagine a young black graduate walking into a corporate interview. Nobody has to tell that person, don't be too loud, don't wear your hair like that, don't use AAVE, in the word slang for black people. Sometimes society teach those lessons without saying a word, through past experience, through rejection, through watching what happened to other people. That's person and environment. Social workers don't just look at individuals. We look at the system surrounding them. The second concept, social work concept, is called ecological systems theory. Basically, it reminds us that none of us grew up in isolation. Our family influenced us. Our school influenced us. Social media influenced us. The church influenced us. Your friends influenced us. Workplace, history influenced us. So when people just say, just be yourself, that sounds nice, but what if being yourself had gotten you judged before? What if you've been told your natural hair wasn't professional? What if teachers corrected the way you spoke, not because they couldn't understand you, because they thought because they thought there was only one acceptable way to be sound? What if every environment keeps you sending you the same message? Eventually, you stop asking who am I and start asking who do they want me to be? That's why social workers doesn't just focus on behavior. We ask, what experience shaped this behavior? And lastly, the last concept of social work is gonna be anti-oppressive practice. Anti-oppressive practice, that's what it's called, sorry. That one fucks me up every time. Now, don't let the name scare you. It's actually asking a pretty simple question. Instead of asking, why doesn't this person fit in? It asks us, why does the system expect everyone to fit one mold, right? And let's go back to the thing on university, right? The debate wasn't really about bonnets. It really wasn't about the do-rags. It's a deeper conversation, that came out. Who gets to define professionalism? Can professionalism evolve as society evolving, or should it just stay the same? And notice something. Reasonable, bitch, these damn words is fucking my ass up. Shit. Let me go take a sip for this. Let me take a sip. Let me tell what's going on. I need some ginger ale. Oh, first of all, give me a little second before we continue. They saying it's a recall ginger ale. Then they said it was onion powder. What else they say? That it's a recall. Yeah, I don't think so. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm sorry. I don't think it's a recall, y'all. I think I think it's a system playing thing where they trying to get people like us to react a certain way because their plans is not going the way they want us to go. Okay, if you read Project 2026, a lot of that stuff in Project 2026 haven't came to play because we're not giving the reaction that they thought we was going to give them. Let's clock it, okay? Just saying. You can do what you want to do about, drinking or eating these products that they say it's a recall on. On my behalf, I'm going to drink it, okay? Because that's medicine for me, okay? That's medicine. I'm sorry. I've been drinking ginger ale for a long time. That thing has helped me get to places to a point A to a point B from health to good, okay? You can do what you want to do on your own time, baby. That's fine. But over here, I'm going to drink what's going to be helpful to me. That's considered medicine. Thank God. Anyways, let's go back to the episode. Reasonable people can disagree. Some people generally believe dress codes prepare students for future careers. Other believes standards reflect other ideas about respectability that doesn't always account for different culture and identities. And both perspectives deserve to be heard. And social work teach us that instead of immediately deciding who's right, let's first understand what values each side is trying to protect. Because once we understand the values, the conversation becomes less about winning and more of understanding, right? So, with all these theories and the oppressive management of psychology, I hope we can take away, right? Is this code switching isn't always good, but it's not also bad. Sometimes it's a skill, it's a protection, it could be exhausting. It also can be empowering, but sometimes if all those things at the same time, sorry, I don't think we have been asking the wrong question, right? Well, actually, I think we have been asking the wrong question because if you think about it, we have been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, why do people code switch? Maybe we should be asking, what kind of world makes people feel like they have to? That's the fucking question that the fuck we need to be asking, okay? And that's where I want to leave the theories behind, right? Because we're not going to be talking about society anymore. We're going to be talking about you. Let's look at it. And since we're talking about you, let's put me in it as well. So let's talk about us, okay? Because if I'm honest, I don't think there's a simple black person listening to this who hasn't code switched at least once. You know what I'm saying? Everybody had done it. Shit, it's even queer people that code switching. Okay, first of all, can I say that? There's queer people who's actually code switching. Like, before people like, oh, code switch is only for black people. No, bitch. I seen a queer person code switch. I'm just like, okay, bitch, not you learning. Like, I'm like, okay. I thought once I did that, I'm like, oh, baby, everybody's kind of connected in their own little way. You know what I'm saying? There's nicer version people who code switch too. And I'm just like, bitch, you start seeing like, I thought it was something in our household that's something we do, but no, other people do it. It just looks different in its own way, but at the end of the day, it's still code switching. Just saying. Just saying. I'm just saying, code switching could be happening in school or at work or church. Maybe the first date, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it happens so often you start noticing it. Hey, look, let me tell you something. I'm a code switch to the day I die, baby, okay? I haven't. Okay, let me say this. All right. I keep getting off topic. But I kind of stopped code switching when I was getting my master's, right? I know I did. Let me say this. In the beginning of me getting my master's, it was from May to, I want to say May to October. That's when I stopped. I continued code switching, like, saying I have to be presentable because, at my age and at the stage that I'm at, I believe I'm somewhere superior. Not gonna lie to you, I'm being authentic. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I thought before. I want I want to be displayed as, not be displayed as, but supreme, but more of, I got to a spot where I wanted to be in life, and that's how I thought I was going to be. But your masters, man, it teaches you some things, but it also shows a reflection of who the fuck you are. That shit fucked my ass up for a second. And so in the midst of me getting my masters, seeing later on, I was like, okay, this code switching. Who am I really code switching for? You know what I'm saying? Who am I trying to be? I'm at a school that's people like me, who's black, and there's also queer people. But there's also something that I haven't really learned about myself. And I think it's more of, now this, like I said, this is off topic from the topic. And I really thought that, I don't really fit in with the people. I try to fit in, with people that, I ain't gonna sugarcoat a bitch. Try to fit in with people who already surpassed in life. No shade, no shade. It's no shade. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but I surpassed them in certain stages. So me trying to fit in with people is like, oh bitch, I already been in that stage. I already know how that shit gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? I already know what the fuck you gonna decide. I know your decision you're gonna pick. I know why you doing pick it. I know your logic. I'm thinking from your point of view. I'm putting myself in your shoes. But why should I put myself in your shoes when I already been in them shoes? Okay? And that's when I'm like, but once I start being aware that I'm doing it, I kind of stopped. But once I stopped, it was already too late because people already started seeing me as one of them. Like, baby, I'm not one of you. No shade. No shade, but it was already too late. But now here I am, I already got my master's. I'm like, I don't need to fit in. You know what I'm saying? I need, like I said in this episode, right? I don't know who defined professionalism, but I don't need to fit in with other people, because if you fit in with other people, what make you unique? You know what I'm saying? Everybody is different in their own ways. That's why everybody unique in their own ways. Well, I'm trying to fit in with other people for what? That doesn't benefit me and didn't benefit me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm gonna get off topic. I was gonna say something, but let's go on. Let's go back to the episode. I'm gonna say at the end. If I remember, I'm gonna say at the end. Where the fuck I was at? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. You stop noticing you code switching, right? And I want to say something that might make people uncomfortable. I don't think code switching automatically means you're fake. I think sometimes it's wisdom. Sometimes it's an emotional intelligence. Sometimes it could be professionalism, but also it could be survival. But I also think there's a cost, because every time you leave a room wondering, was that really me? You pay something. Maybe it's your energy, it's your confidence. Maybe it's a sense of your belonging. Maybe it's a piece of your authenticity. And eventually you start asking yourself, do people actually know me? Or do they only know the version of me I created so I can be acceptable? And that's a heavy ass fucking question. Okay? And I start to realize that, because, no shade, again, this is off topic. Because it's just, I don't know, right? Because in an interview, I do an interview, right? I always bring, yeah, I mean, that's how I've been brought up. You be different. You be that best version of yourself. You don't allow, like, how I grow up, you don't be your authentic self. You be that version of yourself where you have to look a certain way. You have to be in a certain position to either get what you want. You know what I'm saying? So, for me, going to work every day, it's just like, I can't be who I want to be. I can't, because I'm not going to get, that's not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? You when you young, you grow up a certain ways to, like I said, you get what you want. If you want something in life, you're gonna have to go ahead and get it. And that means either changing who the fuck you really are, because Your friends can see who the fuck you are. Your best friends, your family can see who the fuck you are. But when you in a certain position or a certain career, or even not even a certain career, all careers, you don't want your boss seeing who the fuck you really are, because you could possibly have consequences of becoming, of being who you are. And I don't think it's a I don't think it's a individual thing. I think that's just how society was as back in the day. But now that you start realizing, a lot of young adults, a lot of young people is not really giving a fuck about that. They just want to be who they are and being acceptable. Being who they authentically are, how they wear things, how they display certain things. And I think that's where the confusion or the conflict comes into play, because time is switching. You know what I'm saying? Younger generation is not really giving a fuck about what the old generations went through or what they had to bring up. It's more so that it's being modern. So I don't know. But I have to leave y'all with some questions, right? I have to make you think, y'all. I have to make you think, because if I'm thinking, and imagine I'm an overthinker, so I think about all these things. I need you to think about these things. So whether you're driving, working, cleaning, or just sitting with your thoughts, I want you to answer these questions honestly, not for me, but for yourself, right? Have you ever changed the way you spoke before you walk in an interview without even realizing you did? That's one question. Number two, have you ever looked in a room and immediately knew, I need to act differently in here? I have. Number three, have you ever been told you're so articulated, but instead of taking it as a compliment, you wondered, what did you expect me to sound like? Number four, have you ever straightened your hair, changed your hairstyle, cover your tattoos, taken out all your piercings, or even just change your clothes, not because you wanted to, because you thought it would make someone else more comfortable? I fucking hate people. I hate. Okay, anyways. What question one? I think 6. I don't know. The next question. Have you ever laughed at a joke that actually offended you just because you didn't want to be labeled the angry black person? Yep. Have you ever been told you're not like the others and people expect you to take that as a praise? If you become a parent one day, will you teach your child how to code switch, or will you teach them to challenge the system that make it feel necessary? And maybe the hardest question of them all: if success requires you to become someone you barely recognize, will it still feel like success? Just saying. Take your time with those questions. There's no right or wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? Just be honest with yourself. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. These questions these questions really made me feel like, yo, I can't 100% be who the fuck I am in no aspects, because there's family who's gonna judge you. There are certain people you call your friends, but the whole time they really whole lives in judging you. You go to your profession or your career in your life, they're judging you. So when in the time and place can you really be your authentic self and not be judged or feel like you're making somebody uncomfortable? That's why I really don't have a lot of friends, and I'm okay with that. Simple as that. Like, I don't think the problem is that people code switch. I think the bigger question is, why do so many people feel like they have to? As a black person, I have heard the phrase talking white. I heard people say, don't talk like that in an interview. Don't say that around them. You need to sound more professional. And honestly, some of those lessons came with people who loved us, not because they want us to be less black, but because they want us to survive in a system they know that wasn't always being fair. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's more important to acknowledge sometimes code switching is passed down, not as shame, but more as perfection. Parents teach it, grandparents teach it, mentors teach it, not because they're telling us we're not enough, but because they want us to have more opportunities that they didn't have. And I can respect that. I can respect that. But I also dream about a world where success doesn't require people to leave parts of themselves at the door, where where professionalism isn't confused with 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 accommodating to certain expectations, where being authentic isn't seen as being unqualified. Because I truly believe people do their best when they don't have to pretend being someone else. So no, I'm not here to shame anybody who code switch. I have done it. You probably have too. I'm just asking us to think about why. Because maybe the goal isn't to stop adapting. Maybe the goal is to build workplaces, schools, churches, and communities where authenticity isn't treated as a liability. Damn. And so before we go, you know, the social work word of today, right? No, of the week is authenticity. Now, authenticity isn't an official social work theory, but it deeply connects with the ethical practice. Authenticity means showing up as your genuine self while still respecting the people and spaces around you, right? As social workers, we taught to build genuine relationships, not perform them, because people usually can tell when you're simply playing a role. And the true I think that the true outside of social work too. Authentically doesn't mean saying whatever comes to mind without considering others. It means finding ways to honor who you are without losing yourself in the process. That's something I'm still learning. And maybe some of y'all are too, right? Before I let you go, of course, here's the juice question. Have you ever code switched? If your answer is yes, did it make you feel empowered, protected, exhausted, or something else? And if your answer is no, do you think you always been in a space where you felt safe enough to be yourself? I really want to hear your stories, not to judge, not to argue, but to understand. Every perspective adds something to our conversation, and who knows, your story might help someone else feel seen, heard, cared for. Dang, let me take another sip. Bitch, what the fuck was that? It's a long episode. It's only a long episode because I keep going off track. This was a meaningful conversation, y'all. Thank y'all so much for spending another Wednesday with me here on Jenn Juice. And to everyone in the juice box, yes, that's what y'all call y'all the juice box, okay? Thank you for making more than a podcast. Thank you for making it a community. If today's episode challenged you, share it with someone you care about. Not because you want them to agree with you, but because you want them to think. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, follow the podcast so you never miss a conversation. And remember, sometimes we don't change because we are ashamed of who we are. We change because we're trying to survive where we are. And as always, context doesn't excuse behavior, but it helps us understand it. And understanding is where real change begins. I'll catch y'all next week, right here on Jenn Juice. It's a juicy party, yeah, you keyed in. Grab a seat, drink, you know it's Jen.